In the first part of the tutorial, we understood how to create a table in ISAR. Well, in the next 1 hour and 20 minutes, I'm going to show to you how easily you can implement those things from session 1 and create an entire offline app into this session. I'm going to make sure that we cover even the UI. Also, what I have done is separated this entire project into 2 different modules. You're going to get a raw project from GitHub that you can try and use as a practice playground. Next, you're going to watch this tutorial, follow the steps of the tutorial, and try to create the finished project. I'm going to upload both these projects on GitHub so that you can try to use them and modify according to your requirements. The tutorial is going to be super simple, it's going to be engaging and worthy enough for you to understand NoSQL. Let's get started. So you're going to start this entire project by downloading my Let's Talk Books raw project from the GitHub repository. I'm going to make sure that the link to this repository is there at the description box below. Next is, I'm not going to straight away dive into the code. Rather than, I'm going to show to you how we'll be having our blueprint for the app that will be deciding upon what will be the number of screens and how will the screens will look like. This gives me a clear picture of what we'll be doing as a code. The number 1 screen is a splash screen. It's a very simple advertisement screen or the branding screen, which will have logo followed by Let's Talk's book title over the below the logo. Next is the intro screen. So over here, I'm going to show to you this plugin of introduction screen, wherein you'll see this part to swipe right. Next is the book listing screen, wherein you'll be having all the books that you would be having to read, and a book add screen, which will be having a name field where you can enter the name, decide upon the priority. Let's say if you're trying to be a student or you have something urgent as a reading material to be done, and you mark this as most important and urgent, so on and so forth. You can decide upon the priority as well as decide what time you would want to read the book. Now, as you clone the project, you should be landing on to a very basic project for the Flutter. I'll share my screen using Visor, and that's my device. This will be the starting point for your app. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to erase all pieces of code that has come by default, and inside the screens directory, you'll notice I'll now have a splash screen. Okay, so in every occurrence of the file, I'm going to make you aware what widget we will be using and where you can find it in the project. Starting with my splash screen. Now, I'm going to have a timer running here, so better let me just convert this over here into a stateful widget. So this is my scaffold, and at the center of the screen, I'm going to show a logo. So this is my assets, inside which is my images folder, and you'll notice this logo.png to be there. Let me just mention the file path. Over here, I'll mention what is the width and height of my logo. Now, this splash screen, I'm going to call over here class my app, that's extending the stateless widget, and over here I'll add the missing override to return my material app with home as splash screen. So what basically I'm trying to do is, the moment the app loads, it's going to run down to the splash screen and show it up. Let me remove the word const from here and do a hot restart in order to run the app from the very beginning. Well, that's our app. Now, what do we want to do is, first make the background color to be black, and below this logo, I'll be having my app name. In order to have the app name to be customizable, I have created two constant files. One is app constants, next one is color constants. The app constant will have all the things that will be part of introduction, app name, etc. to be there over here as a constant variable. Things like this will keep you flexible in your code to change it in a jiffy wherever you want to have the text changes to be there. And it's a good practice always to not have a tightly coupled class structure. So over here, let me remove this image asset and replace it with a column, following which I'll add a text. Now the text will show the app name, and look over here, I've already created an k app name variable that is probably going to have a font size of 30 and with a color of white. So mostly I'll try to keep the color as white throughout the app. And in order to show the white color, I'm going to keep the background color to be black. Well, on hot reload, this is my splash screen. I'll make the things go to the center, and for that I'm going to set the main axis alignment to dot center. Well, that's the splash screen. Now let's say we want to show this particular screen for 3 seconds. So I'll have my future function. What this is going to do is, it is going to start the next screen in my app. Now, over here, like I was saying, I'm going to delay this by 3 seconds. So let me just go, and over here, use this variable which is presently at 5. I'll change it to 3. Then app constants / timer, and over here I'll mention once this timer is expiring, I'm going to go to the introduction screen. So let me just go add a new Dart file as books introduction screen. Well, I'm going to be a bit lazy and pick the entire code for my introduction screen from the plugin documentation. This example is excellent. I'll copy this, paste it here, and make the necessary changes. So here, I don't require the main function. This is the my app, which I already have in my main directory, main.dart directory. And this is going to be the book introduction screen. Let me change it here. Declare book introduction screen state and have the same state at this place. What I'm going to do is, now because I haven't created this home page, let me comment this piece of code. And yeah, that's my onboarding page. Let me also comment it out. So basically, what exactly are we trying to do? So in the introduction screen, like you saw in the blueprint, there will be 3 pages that will actively describe what is this app actually going to be. Instead, what I have already done is added these images over here. So what I'll try and do, let's imagine if this is the screen. So then over here, I'll try to show the logo or this image followed by one caption or a title and followed by a bit amount of text below it. Now this 3 pages, or let's say this same page, will be replicated over and over again, and they will slide through the entire screen and show what are the different features which we have. Now, by understanding this, let's go to our book introduction screen, and I'm going to change the path. Which path? So let's say when you go over here, this build image function, it picks from the asset over here. I'll add one more directory, assets/images. That's because that's how I have done it in my app. Then I'm not going to require this full screen page. Instead, I'm going to require this small pages. So over here, this is the introduction screen root widget. From here, I'll pick this 1, 2, and 3, and this page view model, followed by the last page view model. I'll try to erase them off. Now, what exactly is this? So let's say over here, one page view model represents to one page in the app. So if I want to have my own title, you'll notice over here I have my title 1 followed by body 1, title 2 followed by body 2. So let me just add this variables title 1, and I'll replace it with app constants body 1. Next, this image, my image name is intro_1 png. I'll keep intro_1.png. Because I want to keep the same structure, I'll delete these two page view models. And first, let us understand if one page works perfectly okay. Now, let's go back to the splash screen. Over here, I'm going to do navigator.push replacement, and I'll take material page route. So if you guys are wondering why did I take push replacement, well, I'm going to answer you that query in a short duration. Yeah, so that's where we declare that we want to go to this book's introduction screen. Now, if we understand, this is a stateful widget. The stateful widget, before the build function is going to be executed, I have something called as init state. And yeah, that's the suggestion. So I'll put over here start next screen and then run my app. Now, before this is going to get hot restart, actually before I started with the session, I already have made the introduction screen plugin and declared it over here. So you have to go to this plugin, that is pubdev, copy this, go to your pubsec YAML file and paste it, and then click on pubget. That's it. Now, let me now show you guys my screen, and over here it says that it is unable to load. Well, I don't want to load any image over there, and let's say we have this title bar, this flutter.png. So let me remove my global header, and also wherever I can find the text, I would want it to be in white color, because that is the color convention we decided to stick to. So here we are defining the color for the text to be white, that is a page decoration to be white. The text style, again, I'll set it to white. And if you guys would notice, I want the page color to be black. That's because it should go by the same theme of my splash screen. Upon hot reload, yeah, this is how it looks like. Now, presently it is showing just one. I'll copy this page view model, paste it twice, and change the title to 2, body to 2, intro to 2, 3, body to 3, and intro to 3. Let's see, upon hot restart, how does it look? And yes, that's how it appears. So if you would notice, it automatically slides, explains the features of the app, and gives me a button. Now, just few minutes back, did you guys notice I use this push replacement? Let's say if I would have done a simple push and run the app, I would want you to notice what happens if I go and press this back arrow button. So we are on intro screen, back, and you go to the splash screen. Well, that shouldn't have happened, right? This splash screen is supposed to be shown only for once. Let's see what happens if we do push replacement. So this is the hot restart version. Now if I click on back, it straight away exits the app. So, which means whenever you use a push replacement, you want to replace the existing navigation stack, and this would be the first page into your app. Well, let me just kill the app, keep it in the run mode, and then go to the add task screen. Or I'll slightly rename it to add book screen. Well, how does the add book screen look like? Going by the diagram, this is the text field where you can enter the book name, following which this is a priority. So let's say if you are a student, you should be considering number 1 priority to have your study books. Then what time of the day you would be reading this book. You can pick a time and then click on add book, which saves it to your database. Let's try creating a code that can actually show you this design. Now what I'll do is I'll have this add book screen, put over here a new screen as scaffold, background color to be black, and then in the body I'll have a column. Well, now starting over here, there is a text field. So what I have done is created this display text field option. What it does is gives me a neat and clean text field option. So over here, once you click on this button, you will be having this text field and this entire screen to be getting displayed, but the text field will also have a scrollable component. Let's say if I were to show to you how does this thing appear. So this is my text field widget. I'll add my text editing controller. That is the book name controller. And I would not want to change this. Let me keep it as final. This is my book name controller with the hint text enter book name. Now from the splash screen, let's do straight away a push replacement and test how does the add book screen look like. Also, we do not want to spend 3 seconds each time. Let me keep this as the minimal time possible for an integer, that's 1. So here we are trying to run our code. So from the splash, we straight away head to the add book screen. Yeah. Now do you notice over here I have kept this particular text field. So it counts the characters, has got how much count characters are left, and also tries to give you a scroll bar. So let's say if you keep on pressing enter and go to the next line, you'll get a scroll bar on this right side for you to scroll within the text field. All these customizations I've already done in the text field. So let me not have this big name for a book and try to restrict it to 50 characters. What you'll notice is the moment I do a hot reload, it now will allow maximum 50 characters to be there in the book. What I'll quickly do is add an app bar. Well, in this particular raw project, you'll also see this custom app bar. What it does is the moment you just declare this, it would ask for a title, and I'll say add new book. The moment you do hot reload, you get a nice title bar, which also has got defined the place where the time and the Wi-Fi symbol is there. And then over here, the entire column will start. What I'll do is, this column is actually sticking to the left and the right widget or left and the right edges. So I'll keep one padding widget that is going to avoid it from the left 20 pixels and right 20 pixels. It's going to keep a padding for my entire column. Oh, I accidentally added 2 commas, and that's how you're going to get it. Now, what I'll try and do is over the top, also add, let's say 10 pixels, so that this text field does not stick to the title bar. Now, what I'm going to do is show the grid for my priority. So if you would remember, this is a priority in which you would want to read. Now, I created this priority model which has got 2 variables, priority value and description. This class you have to create on your own, and it's not going to come with the base or the raw project. In fact, this get priority list is also being created by me after I had the raw project creation. So over here, I'm trying to make what will be the priority value for the book along with its description. Feel free to customize the text if it does not suit to your requirement. Now, what we're going to try and do is over here have my grid view.builder. Now, grid view.builder is very neat way in order to show a grid. So I'm going to take this fixed axis cross count and keep the count to be 2. And over here, build context int index. What are we going to show is a card. The card is going to have a background color, and this time I'm not going to hard code. In fact, use the color constant purple color. I would want to have a rounded rectangle with a 20 pixels rounding, and then I'll be having one column inside which there will be a text. For now, I just put test text. Now, over here, I forgot to give the number of items it would be having. For now, let me just keep it as hard-coded as 4 and do a hot reload. You notice this app crash to be there? Well, that's because over here, I did not mention shrink wrap to be true, followed by never scrollable scroll physics. So let's see how does this thing look like. Yeah, so you can see a grid. There are two of them in one particular row. That's because of this property for grid delegate. Now, the total number of items is 4. Now, what's a shrink wrap? Shrink wrap ensures that this grid does not exceed the length of the phone and it is shrinked to the number of components. Next is this physics. That's because I'm going to make the entire screen to be scrollable, but the screen should together be scrolling. Like this text field, this grid, this buttons, whatever are going to be there, they should all be there in the scrollable component. So I'll pick this entire column. Now wrap it with single child scroll view, and then this two should not be sticking to each other. So I'll put an empty box of 20 pixels. Well, that's how you now have your grid to be there. What I'm going to next do is at the center of the grid, I'll try to put main axis alignment dot center, and I'll be having my priority list. So over here, I'll try to get this priority model. So I'll be having list of priority model, which is going to get displayed on the screen. Yeah, so what did I do, guys? Now, if you would remember, I showed you this particular class, get priority list, which has got this all priorities to be there. I want to show this data in this grid that we have created in the blueprint. So rather than hard coding it within the grid, what did I do is over here use this variable priority list. Next, let me remove this. Keep the priority list dot length to be the item count, which again will be 4. And then whenever now I'm going to show the grid. So here is my current priority model, which is going to pick the items from the priority list, and then instead of this test variable, I'm going to show it right away from my priority list. So let's say now I set up the style to white color and then do a hot reload. You will be able to see all the priorities being listed. Well, this kind of looks ugly because I did not set up the alignment. I can mention the text alignment to be center, and it would appear at the center. By default, this text is 14. So I would want to change the font size and make it a bit smaller, like 10. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a flag icon. So I'll take this flag icon, set its color to white, set its size to 20 or maybe 50, and see how does this thing appear. Yeah. Now, just besides the flag icon, I would have the number for the priority. So I'll put this in a row. Have a bigger size text. So I'll copy this entire part, paste it here. Keep the font size close to around 30, and instead of the priority description, I would want to show the priority value. So how does this thing appear? Let's try and do a hot reload. Yes, that's how it appears. Again, it got left aligned because for the row, I did not mention the main axis alignment. Yeah, that's a neat priority grid that we get to see. Following which, if you go with the blueprint, there is a pick time and an add book option. So, do you notice display time text field? In order to save time, I have all got them consolidated for you guys. So you can just pick this size box, give some spacing after the grid, and just write display time text field. So here I'll put one more controller as time controller, pass it over here and do a hot reload. So in no time you get to see this option. If you click on it, you'll be getting one pop-up, and that pop-up will be allowing you to choose the custom time in which you would be wanting to read this book. Following which, I'll be having my last button, that is my custom button widget. So this custom button is my customization to the button. The text on the button, I'll keep it as add book. Upon hot reload, let's try and see. Yeah, now over here, I'll again add the same sizing in between them, and in fact, I would want my entire width of the phone to be having the button. So I'll put width media query dot of context size dot width child. I'll paste this and do a hot reload. So what do you notice is now whatever is the width of my phone, that exact width is being applied to this button. And then what we can do is, once you click on the add button, it will save these details and allow you to see this book on the display book listing screen. So let's go now to the book listing screen, wherein we'll have this logo. Now, this part of the logo and Let's Talk Books is already been done. So what I'll do is simply copy it from my splash screen, create display books list screen, have my class display books list screen, extending the stateless widget, and then pasting the entire scaffold. Now over here, I do not want the things to go to the center and have my logo to the minimal size. So what I'll do is, only for testing, again I'll go and instead of push replacement going to add book screen, I'll change this to display books list screen. Now if I try to do a hot restart, I should be seeing this blueprint, but not this card, of course. Let's see how does this thing appear. Yeah, it goes over here. Again, what I can do is very quickly, just because I have custom components, I can add an app bar with the custom app bar option and display the title as books list. I'll do a hot reload to see this title. Now, following which over here is going to be the listing part for my books. Let's move to the next part of the video, wherein what we're going to do is highlight what is the grid item that you have selected and also add validation on these two text fields. For validation, I'm going to use something called as a form key. So here we are, global key form state underscore form key equal to global key. Next, what I'll do is this entire column, which basically shows this part of the entire screen, I'm going to cut and put it in a form widget. Now, what will happen is the moment you click on this button, I'm going to validate the form, and look how quickly I could do it. So with the form key, I'm going to check if the current state is not equal to null and my form is valid. So what will happen if I try now to do a hot reload and click on this button? You'll notice this red color line on book name and this red color text on this pick time option. Well, over here it appears to be faint in visor. However, when I see on my device, it's absolutely clear. So what did I do? So basically, if you go inside the text fields, I already have written a function validator. What it does, if it is empty, then it returns pick valid time with a red color error border. However, if it is not empty, then it says it's perfectly okay and we can proceed with the form validation. So over here, just try and see that when your custom button widget is there, you call this on button press function. Otherwise, no matter how many times you try to press this button, you'll not be able to get a callback from this custom button widget. Now, what we're going to do is move this entire grid that we have for priority into a separate common widget. And I'll call this display priority grid widget. Now I'll cut this. So the class display priority grid widget is going to extend stateless widget. I'll take the missing override. Then I'll quickly use the shortcut to convert to a stateful widget. And over here, I'll return the entire grid view. So this is going to require the priority list. So let me now shift my entire logic for showing the priority list from here to inside the widget. Now, before I do any changes to my code, I would want to verify that this has got any implications to the working style which we had observed previously, and we'll check whether anything is broken. So over here, oh yeah, I forgot to take the import for the color constant. Let's try to run the code from the very beginning and test whether this thing works or not. Yeah, so then absolutely no difference. What do we do next is over here, I'll create a variable int selected value and I'll keep it as -1. Next, to this card, I'm going to add a gesture detector that is going to detect on tap or on click gesture. So what it will do is show the selected value according to the index and then do set state. Well, what are we doing set state for? Do you remember this color? So if it is selected value equal to the index, then in order to show the selection, I'll show the color as orange. Otherwise, it's going to be my purple color. Let me see. Oh yeah, better I just declare one orange color variable here and colors dot orange. Let's import this key orange color from color constants now. And do a hot reload. Now, do you notice it just switches the color and shows me exactly what is the widget that we have selected? So now I'll use something called as a function callback, priority selected, on card click. So what is this on card click? So basically, I'm going to have this particular function as a mandatory parameter in my constructor. Well, the reason for this is going to be I'm going to use this and let the parent widget know what was the priority value that got selected. So here we are writing the code for priority value selected, and over here with the help of my print statement, I'm going to show to you priority selected, and in the logs, let's try and run and see whether I'm getting the correct priority or not. Here's my app. I'm going to click on 3 and it says yes, the priority selected is 3. Well, what we are now going to head towards is the database part, wherein we want to insert this data and show it on the user's end. So what I'll now do is, inside my tables, now I'll create a new directory as managers and create a Dart file as book manager. So my class book manager is actually going to have all the queries that is going to manage along with my database. So here I am declaring my ISAR variable, and then I'll be having 4 different steps in which I would be doing this database operation. Step number 1 is initializing the database. So over here, we are going to create the directory, for example, directory, and then in which directory it will get saved, I'll be performing that, or in fact, I'll be saving the path for the directory when I'm creating my database object. Now, when it comes to creating directories, I'm going to use this path provider Flutter. Copy this and add it to the pubsec YAML file. Creating internal storage directory in Flutter. Now click on pubget. It's going to download the code. Meanwhile, I'll just kill the app and then in my book manager, I can mention await get application documents directory and then wait for this sync to get finished. Now as the sync is complete, what I'll do is I'll write down all the functions that I'll be requiring for my database and then continue along with the video for explaining you how to use the entire ISAR for quickly creating your app into NoSQL. So basically what I have done is over here I'll write a function as insert a book. So over here, I'm going to write this ISAR instance, which will be helping me to write into the ISAR instance. But wait, didn't we make the ISAR instance to be null initially? Well, that's where the step 1 is going to come into picture, guys. Now in the step 1, what we are doing is, at this particular step, we go inside of the phone and create an internal directory that can be accessible only by that particular app, and then create a database there. For example, if there is something in the internal storage, then other apps cannot read it. And that's exactly where my ISAR instance got created. Now I can use .write transaction and write a book inside the database. Over here, I can just do .delete and mention over here the book ID that I would want to delete. And then I could be getting this output message whether the book was deleted or not. Now, this is the interesting part, listen to books, which will continuously listen and update the display task list string or display book list string, wherein you'll be having all the books which were there to be read, and it will just immediately get updated. Now, what I'm going to do is, in the add book screen, I'm going to create a book manager. So this book manager, I'll try to import here, and then in my book model, it requires this duration. So duration is the time for the day wherein we want to read the book. So let's go and customize this display time field, display time text field, in order to show the pop-up. So here I am inside the display time text field. I'll write a future function, show time picker pop-up. And I'll pass over here my build context. Now, what I'm going to do is, at the beginning, I'll have the selected time variable. So let's see, I'll keep one selected time to show the initial time of the day as 1 hour and 15 minutes. So here I'm going to use an await, which shows the time picker. The time picker will have the initial time as 1 hour and 15 minutes. I'll set the selected time variable to pick the time, followed by, I'm going to use this display time controller and show the selected time in a string format. Yeah. Now I'll call this the moment you are tapping on it. Yeah. Now what I have done is I have killed the app so that my path provider plugin can actually run the code and get all the necessary things to get downloaded. So let me use this run button, wait for this path provider to get compiled. As the APK get regenerated, I click on this, I get to see 1:15, and it allows me to customize the time and also set it on the timer. Then what I can do is set the book priority value and also enter the book name. What I think is I'm mostly done with all the things that could be there, and it's a good way that I can use this book model to insert the data inside my NoSQL table. So over here I'll have my book name controller dot text. This priority value I'll initially set it to priority value equal to -1, and then whatever the priority value the user will be giving me, I'll set it to the selected priority value, followed by the duration. And for the duration I have my time controller dot text. Next I'll go to my book manager and then insert a book. So what I'll do is do a hot reload. Next I'm going to enter the oath of Vayuputras. I'll click on 1, pick the time as 1:15 and click on add book. Now over here what you'll notice, this particular insert which says the row ID, this never got printed in the output. That's because we never called the init database, right? Now this is an important step, guys. When you are in the main function, you are now going to create one init that is going to initialize the database. So look over here, I'm initializing at the root of the widget. So here I'm going to use book manager dot init database. Now I'll make this as async await init, and also I'm going to do widgets binding dot ensure initialized. So this ensures that once the initialization is complete, I immediately do the init database. Let's try and see. If I now do a hot restart, the benefit of ISAR is you get this link. I can copy this link, paste it in my browser. So this is an empty book model. Now I can just enter Wings of Fire, set the time as 1:15 and click on add book. And yes, it says 1, and this time it in fact shows up on my Chrome browser as well, that this book ID 1 has got 1:15 as a time duration when I would want to read it, and the priority value is 2. Isn't that amazing that I can dig into the database right from my browser? Now what I'm going to do is show this listing on this particular page. So over here I'm going to create a book manager. Now do you remember the stream that we had created? That was this particular stream that allows me to read and also list down the books very fast. So I'll be having now a stream builder. So it's going to take the stream from my book manager, put over here build context, async snapshot, list of book models, So here, if my snapshot is getting connected, then at this particular point in time, at the center, or in fact, let me just simply keep it as circular progress indicator, which would continuously show the loading symbol. Else, if my data has been loaded, then I'm going to create a list in which I can show the books. So this time I'm going to use list view dot builder. Let me just write a return here, and this list view dot builder is going to show the list of items, guys. So I'll pick the list of book models that we have received. And then show it in the item builder. For now, my item builder is going to a very simple one. In the text, I'm going to show the book name and change the style to white color. I'll put over here text style and color to be white. Yeah, so let's see what happens now. I'm going to go to the splash screen, and then over here just mention display book listing screen. Let's try to run the app, and over here I landed into an error. Oh, I forgot to put a semicolon here. Else we show nothing but an empty container. Now let's try to run the app. I can see no errors on this book listing screen. So there is a bit amount of loading, and then the app shows a crash. That's because I forgot to put over here shrink wrap and the physics to never scrollable scroll physics. Let's try to run the app once again. Yeah, do you notice? This is the exact name of the book which we had kept. Now, what happens inside a stream builder? Meanwhile, the loading has been displayed. The connection state for the stream builder is loading, or that is connection state waiting. So what do I do is, over here, show a circular progress or a loading symbol, and the moment we get the data, over here, we try to load the entire list. Now, what we are going to do is try to customize this and show in the form of a card. Now this card is going to be like having a shape, and I'll keep it as 20 pixels, and also I'll set the size of the card with the height of, let's say, 100 pixels. Now what I'm going to next to do is, just below this, I'm going to mention the duration in which I would be wanting to read this book. and this time I'll put it in a row. And this would be the time in which I would want to read this book. Let's see how does this thing appear. Well, I forgot to give a color to my card, and over here I would want this to be a black color, and let me, instead of keeping this as a card, keep this as a container and have this entire thing as a decoration widget. So here I would want to switch this to a child decoration, box decoration, in which all the sides would be having a width of 2 pixels and the color to be colors.white. Now let's see how does this thing appear. So I'm expecting a white color border container. Yeah, now I would want to give this a border radius and slightly increase the size of the text which says out the book name, and then I would want to align everything to the left hand side. So I'll put cross axis alignment dot start. Yeah, everything goes left aligned, and then I do not want everything to stick to the screen. So here I'll mention that on all sides I would want to have a 10 pixels padding. Yeah, that looks clean. Now on the right side I'll mention what should be the priority value for this. So I'll put on my column an align widget that aligns to the bottom corner or bottom right. So it's going to show an icon, that flag symbol which we had, I'll keep it to very minimal size and set the color to white. Besides the flag, I'm going to show what is the priority for that particular thing. So here I will be having my current book model priority value, that again shall be in a white color text, and with a font size of 10. Let's see how does this thing appear. Yeah, it appears like this. Font size, I guess by default would be good. Yeah, now it does not appear to bottom right. That's because over here we have used this align widget, and let me now use over here main axis alignment dot end. Yeah, and that shifts to the end. What I'll now do is add a floating button that can help me add more books. So I'll just collapse my entire scaffold, add a floating action button, which shows the add symbol. Yeah, that's my floating action button. Now, whenever we click on this, I'm going to just navigate to the correct page, which is basically my add book screen. And then whenever we are done adding one book, what I'll do is over here make this as async. Whenever we are done adding, I'll just do navigator dot pop. So basically it pops back to the current screen or the screen which was there previous to this add book screen. Yeah, so this I'm going to click on plus. It takes me to this new screen. Put over here Oath of Vayuputras, priority number 1, pick time as maybe 3, done. Click on add book and you see over here priority number 1, Oath of Vayuputras. Now you see this, they both getting stuck. We can separate them out. How do we do that is on the stream builder where we are showing this list view, I'll try to set up margin. So on all sides, I would want to have a 10 pixels margin, and that's how they both get separated. So what I would now want you guys to do is over here on top, just try adding a delete button. On delete, I would want you to go to this books manager and delete a task according to their IDs. You'll notice because the stream builder is being used, it will reflect the changes in the flick of a second, and you'll see this entire part to work in flash of a second. The last part, if you would remember my splash screen, it was once showing this introduction screen, but then we kind of made it look away that it should always go to display book listing screen. So over here, what I'm going to show to you is how we will be using our shared preferences. That will be a separate plugin that will help us in remember whether the user has seen this introduction screen or whether he has not seen the introduction screen. So let me now go to pubdev and look for the shared preferences plugin. Copy this. I'll put it in the pubsec YAML file. Storing key value pair. And then click on pubget. Now as I see the APK to get installed, if you would remember in the book's intro screen, we had this on intro end. This would appear whenever you click on this let's go right away button. So what I'll do is over here, make this function as a future, and I can use as async keyword. Next, what do we do is I'm going to use this shared preferences refs await shared preferences get instance. Now over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a boolean variable. What is a boolean variable? Again, let me not hard code, and over here use this k is intro displayed variable. So app constants k is intro displayed, and I'll set it to true, following which I'm going to allow the navigation to display books list screen. Now, whenever you would press, this variable is set to true. Otherwise, we have our splash screen wherein we're going to keep the same check I'll copy this 2 lines. Now over here, I'm going to keep a check. Let me just take the import, and instead of set, I'll just look for a bool variable is intro displayed. Now, if is intro displayed equal to null, or if the intro displayed is basically false, then I'm going to move this push replacement and first show the introduction screen. If the user has already seen it, this variable is going to be true, and I can go to the book listing screen. Now I'll run the app from the very beginning and I'll show it to you. Because we have used the shared preferences just now, the boolean variable had to be false, and now I go to say this introduction. Let's click on, let's go right away. I see the book listing screen. Next, when I try to do a hot restart, because the intro now is being displayed, I should not irritate the user by making him see again and again. And this time, what do you notice? It straight away goes to the book listing screen. Last, I'm going to set the timer to 3 seconds and test the entire app. Hot restart. You get to see the splash screen. Followed by it goes to this particular screen. Then I click on plus sign. Over here, enter the book name as Atomic Habits. I'll set the time as 10:15. Click on add a book and it shows up on my display book list screen. With this, we come to a conclusion for Let's Talk Books. Let's Talk Books? Well, let's talk NoSQL. As we have completed the entire tutorial, I believe you'll be having more ideas now on NoSQL storage and also how you can create your own offline app. Try making something beautiful. Happy coding!